While I'm sitting here huddled at home, being all sick, and my throat is not exactly working with me, and the rest of my friends are all just roaming around Tokyo again, having a great time, I gotta remember that there's always one guy that inspires hope. And he's back again. Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm Season 4 here. Today I am back to cover Incandescent Lion Blond Ezel in DivineZ. Now, I know a lot of you in my older deck profiles have been asking, well, how do I actually update all of my DivineZ decks to actually, keep playing them in the new format, especially for 2024. By the time this video comes out, more rather than not, most of you would have already been acquainted with the changes that are coming to DivineZ. And if you haven't yet, please check the link in the description below for my DivineZ Explain video. I break down all the changes for you quite well in a nice little presentation, so I hope that will be enough to catch you up to speed. Today I'm going to cover Blond Ezel because at long last, my previous Blond Ezel deck profile, which is also in the link in the description, has finally hit 1,000 views. And because of that, it shows that the video was successful enough. I can make a second one. That's kind of how I do things on my channel. So now mostly this deck that hasn't changed. We did get a promo, which I did get a lot of comments about. And you'll be happy to know I picked them up on the first week of release. I'm referring to Azaltus or Atlas, whatever, whether you're Japanese or English, they kind of change the name a little bit. But not just because of him. I mean, I wouldn't just make a video because of him, but because now with the new 54 changes and with the whole increased deck size, I figured today would be a great opportunity for me to actually sit down and cover this deck in its entirety. Blond Ezel is someone whom I actually mentioned in my DivineZ Explained video as someone who would benefit directly from DivineZ. I played this deck competitively at multiple national tournaments, and I can safely tell you that, there are some times where you just look at the top 3 cards or top 7 cards of your deck and they're all triggers, and it really sucks. But for Blond Ezel, now that you have less chances to see triggers, it's a good thing because now you're more likely to not miss your offensive pieces. Plus, this one's kind of a side tangent. The fact that you can now choose whether you want to go first or second is very grateful for Blond Ezel, even though DivineZ, as you probably know, favors going second because of the energy draw. Again, I mentioned this in the link in the description. Blond Ezel is still primarily a going first deck, so while there may be more developments to this deck later on this year, I just do want to clear everything out of the way from the premises so that everyone's on the same foot. We can finally talk about the right deck in peace. The right deck is a pure Gold Paladin right deck, but as you probably know, we also have energy. Energy is something, again, I mentioned in the link in the description, but I don't have my physical energy crest. It's coming in a few days, but other than that, we still play our normal Criff, our normal Gareth, our normal Bowman, and of course, Mr. Blond Ezel. You have to play Criff. It's compulsory so that you can actually do the superior right jump. You can play any other starter you want, but you're not going to be able to play the deck then. We still play Gareth. Gareth, when he's ruled upon by Bowman, you can search your deck for a Reign Supreme King of Beasts and add it to your hand. I'm obviously referring to Blond Ezel's order, but we'll go through more about that in a bit. Gareth's second skill is not relevant to you because you won't exactly have him as a rearguard because he just gains 2k. It's basically like a Blaster Javelin, but because Gareth doesn't really share an archetypal name, you won't really want to play him unless they get a specifically Gold Paladin superior call. Then I guess just like how Javelin has Emmeline, but at this point in time, no. But someone we will play in the main deck will be Bowman. So both of Bowman's skills I'll break down here first. You can discard a card from your hand. If you have both Criff and Gareth in your soul, you can superior call directly from the right deck Incandescent Lion, Blond Ezel, and he will get drive -1. You don't exactly plus at all because the same discard one that you discard to superior right Blond Ezel is the likely same card that you will be discarding to normal right Ezel from your right deck. So all Bowman literally does is just speed up the process. It's not exactly a +1. But his other skill, which is also minus, is that at the end of the battle, you can declare attack with his unit on the rearguard circle. He can gain 5,000 power if your Vanguard's Ezel, but if you do, you have to put him to the bottom of the deck at the end of the battle. Why that matters is obviously to combo in with Blond Ezel, who will superior call to open rearguard circles. So you want to clear out your open front rear circles, just like Felty Rosa Sama, and then that's how you pop off the attacks. Although this is the least effective option because he is a -1, he does gain 5,000 power, so until we get better options, you can't really blame Bowman for that. I mean, we are thankfully in a time where they did already print Azaltus by the time that we are covering this update video, so it does help. If you see my previous video, you know that we were pretty pretty hard reliant on Bowman to the point we relied on stuff like, we were seriously relying on Drilling Angel. And I know I saw the entire post online about some guy saying, you don't play Drilling Angel and Ezel. Well, that's because you had so much more development as compared to me. I mean, is it really fair to compare the caveman to the modern English judge? I think that's pretty unfair if you ask me. And last but not least, our grade 3 is the titular Incandescent Lion Blond Ezel. You can only write units with Ezel in its card name on top of this card, which basically means you can either Persona write or you can wait for Platina Ezel. Hopefully this year. Alright, Bushiroad? I'm waiting. At the beginning of your turn, if you have 3 or less units on the board, which basically means 2 rear guards, Soul Blast 1, look at the top 3 cards of your deck, choose one and call from among them, put the rest at the bottom. You can only do this at the beginning of the right phase, so you can't have to wait until your opponent's turn directly ends, and then after you stand and draw, you can do this. The thing is that you will get to use this ability of Blond Ezel before you use the DivineZ Draw, because the DivineZ Draw will only trigger off during your main phase as an activated skill. So that is something you do want to know when it comes to your generic energy, that Blond Ezel's timing is very peculiar. His second skill is that when he declares an attack on a grade 3 or greater Vanguard, you can counterblast 1. Look at the top 7 cards of your deck, choose up to 2 grade 3 or lower cards from among them, call them to rearguard circle, and then right afterwards, he gains 10,000 power, which is nice. He's not just restricted to the front row, you can call him to any open rearguard circle. So yeah, that's pretty nice all in all. But of course, like I said, you can only really write him on top of, you can only write Ezel units on top of Ezel. So you can't cheat out Best in Accord. But then again, Best in Accord and Best in Prime, they've already got their own deck sorted out. I wouldn't really be concerned. The right deck really takes up the most amount of explanation when it comes to Blond Ezel. So now we can really go through the rest of the deck. For the grade 3s, we obviously play 3 copies of Blond Ezel in the main deck and 1 for the right deck. We now play 4 copies of Reign Supreme, King of Beasts, and we have a friend, and that is Sages, Knight of Deeply Laid Stratagem Strategist, and then we play 1 copy of our Gallus Piece. This is our cup, our chalice. All 4 copies of Blond Ezel plus the chalice are very important. Ezel is a deck that will live or die by Persona Right. So your Persona Rights are your main source of numbers, your main sources of aggression. You will maximize on this to the end. So take note on that. If you're planning to build this deck, you have to find your copy of Cup. You can either buy it from your standard deck sets from Graham Graves or Farfnil, or buy the DBTO8 version. You do need to get this card. It's an absolute necessity. Unless you want to wait for Platina Ezel, which is fine as well, but if not, you do want to get this card. Moving on to the rest of the deck. The rest of the deck, we will talk about Sages first. Now, Sages is someone, if you've seen my deck list online for what I played at my WGP back in September, Sages is a card that I deeply dislike. I feel that he does way too much for way too little, but the fact of the matter is still that Sages is good, but he doesn't synergize with Blond Ezel. I'll explain right now. If your opponent drive checks or damage checks a trigger, this unit gains 10,000 power and 10,000 shield. So even though Sages is another grade 3 in this deck, he is actually a Guardian card, and because of the nature of shield ratio with DivineZ, check the link in the description, having 10k shield on the grade 3 is very effective. Second ability is that when he attacks, you can look at the top card of your deck, and then you can put it there. Or you can soul charge it. Then counterblast 1, and then you can choose the following effects. You can counterblast 1, and if your opponent's Vanguard is over 14,000 power, or is 14,000 power higher, you can add the opponent's Vanguard power to himself, which basically means, if his Majesty on Blaster, you copy his 15,000 power, eat shit, Ames. But if his ability is attacking a unit that is, for example, he put a defensive, so like, let's say, for example, my opponent is a 23,000 attack Vanguard, I can copy my opponent's value and triggers to himself. So it's 13 plus 23, which is 36, and then because of the first skill, he gains another 10. That's 46. So Sages will crack and break every number, including, alright, and this is something you might want to hold on to your seat for, a defensive over trigger. He can crack defensive over triggers. He's that good in this deck. And then last but not least, he still has one more effect just to rub salt on your wounds. and that is you can also choose to remove an over trigger from your drop zone, choose one of your front row rear guards, and it gains 50,000 power. So Suggest, in a word, is just power. Power, 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 power. It will not stop, it will never end, it is just that insane. But why does Suggest not synergize with this deck? Is because Suggest has 0 ways to remove himself from a rearguard circle. You will have to hard rely still on D-Drain in order to effectively tuck him back into the deck so that you can combo off a multi-attack with Blond Ezel. If you don't, you will have Suggest on the board and he will sit there and just, while he's a very powerful attacker, he does not contribute well to our endgame. So this is still a little gripe I have with this, but you are encouraged to play Suggest because I create competitive success with him. You can definitely test it out for yourself, but I also understand Suggest is very expensive. So because of that, if you can't afford it, it's fine. But here's something that's really cheap. We have 4 copies of Reign Supreme King of Beasts, which I know everyone is punching their computer screens right now saying, but Ahmed, this card is shit. I know. Reign Supreme King of Beasts, what you do is if you have an Ezel Vanguard, you play this order for free. Look at the top 7 cards of your deck, choose a grade 3 or lower card from among them, call it to the regular circle, gains 5,000 power, you shuffle the deck. I know what you're saying. Why am I playing 4 copies of this really bad order? In the new 54, your deck is even more inflated, which means you need a way to hard dig all of your offensive cards as soon as possible. Reign Supreme is the largest amount of scan targets you can get for the fastest amount of time. The second you ride up to Blond Ezel on turn 2, you can use this order immediately, which means you can immediately start to dig and look for anything good. Ideally, you want to look for cards that will help you draw so that you can continue to plus. The first option is stuff like Silver Fang Witch, but as you can see from this deck profile and something I did play at my WGPs, and you would have seen it from my list online if you've been reading me for a while, it's gonna be Sacrosanct Dragon. Any one of these cards that allow you to draw on Superior Call is essentially what Ezel needs, and you will get them on hard demand only with Reign Supreme. So despite the fact that this card is still very bad in my opinion, he is worth playing right now because we don't have any better ways to dig the deck at a cheap and effective cost. Plus, remember that Gareth will also add it to your hand for free. So, it's virtually built into the system. You might as well take advantage of it. Your extra copies, you can always just use it for. Just can't afford it. It's not the end of the world, is it? Moving on to our grade 2s. Our grade 2s, we play 4 copies of Exaltus. We play 4 copies of Sacrosanct Dragon. And then we play 4 copies of Bowman with 1 in the right deck. So I've already covered Bowman, so I'm going to move him out of the way. Again, as I said, you want to use Bowman in the main deck because he's really still one of the only multi-attackers in his deck that does combo off with Ezel. But once you get better options, you can just stick to Bowman in the right deck. Exaltus, as I mentioned just now, he's very good because of his abilities and his flexibility. Don't be fooled. I mean, when the second I saw Sacrosanct, I had a feeling that, he's going to be really good if Ezel comes in D. And then Ezel did came in D. But I was still 50-50 on him when I was doing my previous deck profile. But now that I've played at 2 different WGPs of Ezel, I can tell you safely this card is something you would want to consider heavily. When placed on a regular circle by a card's ability, this unit gains 5,000 power. If this unit was called from the deck, Soul +1, draw 1 card, and then this unit gains boost to the end of the turn. That is a lot of flexibility. That is a 15k booster potentially. It's still a draw, and even if you don't call it from your deck, it's still a 15k attacker. It's wonderful. The only downside with Sacrosanct is that he's a garnet most of the time if you don't call it from the deck, or if you just draw into him. I mean, yes, we call by a card ability, and normal calling is not by card ability. So that's why honestly some people hate Sacrosanct, some people love Sacrosanct. I find him quite nice, but if you're not a fan, you can always swap him out for something else. You can always try, Kybre or Catwalla. I think all of them are still pretty fine options as well. You could even try stuff like Spiral Cutie if you really wanted to. You could give him a hand and try, you could go back to Drilling Angel. I know some people hated when I played Drilling Angel and Ezel, but it is still an option that you can give a try. But all in all, this is one of the more flexible slots in my opinion, so don't worry too much about it. Someone you do absolutely want 4 of is Exaltus, and as what a lot of my comment section was saying in my previous profile, you're absolutely right. This guy is freaking insane. He's one of the few reasons why Ezel still, in my opinion, can be playable because of the amount of hoops this guy can jump through just for our Gold Paladin allies. When his unit declares an attack, if your Vanguard has Ezel in its name, choose one of the following effects and you can use it. You either can, one, give your Vanguard the red text that says all your front row rear guards gain 5,000 power, and at the end of the battle that this unit attacks, as in him, you board deck this unit. So basically what this means is that Exaltus himself will gain 5,000 power, and all of your future attackers will also gain 5,000 power, including the two that Blond Ezel will superior call. It's just that good. It's really insane, but you may be thinking, yeah, but that's still a -1. Yes, I get that it's a stronger bowman, but realistically speaking, we didn't need more bowman. Well, they went beyond that. They didn't just give you bowman. If you don't want to use that first skill so early on in the game, there is a second skill you can take advantage of. At the end of the battle that is unit attack, choose a Gold Paladin unit from your back row and add it back to the hand. You can now recycle your Silver Fang Witches for additional draw. You can now recycle your Listener of Truth Dindrin for additional counter charge, and also kind of evasion, which is why I did so well killing Garkiva with Ezel. But the fact still remains that that's still a recyclable Gold Paladin unit. Those are for the grade 1 Gold Paladin units. If a stray Blond Ezel just happens to end up in your back row, you can add it back to your hand, which is an unlikely situation, but it could happen, right? So that's all things you can really take note of. Exaltus, while not being a Gold Paladin himself, is definitely the best Keter Sanctuary card that Ezel has in his current arsenal. So if you haven't gotten your hands on this guy yet, I strongly recommend you to get out of your house, play your locals, and get him. Moving on to our grade 1s. Our grade 1s, we play 4 copies of Silver Fang Witch, that's expected. 4 copies of Dindrin, that's also expected. 4 Perfect Guards, is also expected. And then a copy of Gareth, which is, again, also expected. I think it's really funny that, this grade 1 lineup looks exactly the same as before. What happened to my lighting? Okay, that's right. But the fact of the matter is, the base of this deck has never changed. Gareth is still here because, the right deck, we still play 4 Perfect Guards. We still want to stay alive. We can play Sanctitude. I have played Sanctitude before, but if you are playing it in a non-Shiranui and non-Luard event, you are more encouraged to play normal Perfect Guards because they are still normal units you can call. Sanctitude is still an order at the end of the day. But again, that doesn't really change much, so it depends on your budget, depends on your needs, and depends on how much you really want to commit to this deck. I do want to say one more thing though, and Sanctitude is reprinted in your quick start decks. At least in Japan. I have no idea what English is doing with the quick start decks, but if you're also playing in Japanese like me, you can actually get a copy of this at 700 yen, which is very insane. Very insane. We play 4 copies of Dindrin. Dindrin is still the heart of this deck. I don't really think I need to explain this much. When placed on the rearguard circle, if you only have one clan, if your Vanguard only has one clan, Soul Blast 2 and Counter Charge 1. So this can work for your Majesty Lord Blasters, this can work for your Luards. I know you guys love Luard. Yeah, all of them can use Dindrin. So that is pretty much a generic counter charger for any form of encounter deck, which is why this card was so expensive and probably still is. I hate it though, like you don't even play it in the other decks. Ezel's the only guy that really needs it, and I have to pay a premium tax for it. It's bloody insane. The second skill is that at the end of the Paladin's unit boost, if your Vanguard is Ezel in the name, choose one of the front and rear guards in this unit's column, move it to the bottom of your deck, stand this unit. Dindrin is a restanding booster, and it also helps you clear off all your annoying people like Sargests off the field. It is just really helpful and allows Ezel to continue his stream of multi-attacks. As I said previously, if you do not have your copy of Chalice, you should not be playing Blond Ezel. I think the same is also true for Dindrin. If you can't afford Dindrin, you shouldn't play Blond Ezel because your deck will just not be as effective. And our last grade 1 is going to be Silver Fang Witch. She's still really lovely and what a wonderful art she has. When placed on the rearguard circle, if you're grade 3 or greater Gold Paladin Vanguard, counter blast 1, draw a card, and this unit gains 5,000 power. Sorry, I may have misphrased that. The 5,000 power on place is absolutely free so long as you hit the condition of having a grade 3 Gold Paladin rearguard. You can also counterblast 1 to draw a card. But then again, you always do Silver Fang, which is one of your main ways of fighting early aggression, mid-game aggression, late-game aggression, everything. This card is just really good and it's one of your greatest mulligan targets. I cannot stress how strong this is for a common. This is probably the strongest common printed in 2023 for a singular deck. Last but not least, our grade zeros. Our grade zeros, we still play Criff, little boy Criff. We still play our Valnots. As you guys probably know by now, all of your overtriggers have been reprinted in DivineZ BTO1, the Fated War, which also includes the two from Festival, which is Valnot, as well as Eidos Farah. So if you can't afford either of the Festival overtriggers, just wait for DivineZ BTO1 and you can buy it. I assure you that Valnot is certainly worth it for Ezel because Martinoa certainly isn't. He's bloody useless in his deck. We play 3 effect draws, which has also been reprinted in triple drive booster, so pick them up if you can. And they're also reprinted in the quick start deck, so hooray, more good news. And then we just play a stream of 8 criticals and then 4 heals. I don't think I need to explain that. And that wraps up our Blond Ezel deck profile for DivineZ. This is still a deck that I deeply care about. This is still a deck that I still greatly enjoy. And I'm really glad that because the previous deck profile has finally hit 1,000 views after such a long period of time, really, I am now able to update it. I don't know whether I want to update other of my older deck profiles. I may, if you leave a link, if you leave a comment description, if you like and share this video, if this video does well, I may just update more. But I think one of the reasons why I also wanted to cover Blond Ezel is because of the fact that at the end of the day, there are winners and losers to the new 54. There are winners and losers to decks that can take advantage of these rule changes and those that cannot. I feel Ezel is another deck that strongly takes advantage of these new rule changes, similar to Tamayura, which I recently just covered. You can check that out. It's on the channel. So really, it's really up to you to experiment and try. Even if your deck hasn't really gotten much new support or is not really supported in general, I still do recommend you to give it a look because everyone has 4 extra slots. Everyone can try. I know there are some people saying, oh, but the card quality in some decks are worse than others, so even if you give them all energy-based draws, it's not going to help. Well, then just stop playing Eugene. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Take care.